Well, welcome everybody.
We're starting?
Yes, we're going to
I'm
start.
sorry,
'Cause
wait.
It's a little bit after 5, so I figure we should. Do we, for committee meetings, are there usually agendas handed out to the public? What do we usually do? I realized I came here and I'm
We
like,
don't
oh,
really
yeah,
have
my
a
copy.
we don't have a usual.
Okay, we don't have a usual. All right, so
You
maybe,
have to design how you want
I was
it
going
to
to
be.
say, so we can start one, so I
It's
think,
not usual?
no, well, I don't know, Bunny, but I'm in the learning mode, so.
All right.
So if you print agendas,
Yes, yeah, I would like agendas for folks. So is that something the office can do?
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
super. I would love to have a little supply for the public. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is to talk about the library terrace. And given that I know very little about it, because a lot of the discussion about it happened before I started coming to council meetings on a regular basis, I was able to find some things on the SharePoint site. So I was able to read the grant proposal, or the grant, the information related to the Windsor Street Greening Project and how the terrace has some connection to that. And then I also asked Sean to have the office pull together what we've spent so far, which was not the easiest thing to do, I guess, because different accounts were used in different years so it wasn't as simple as just pulling one thing. So when I look at all of this and I see the grant talks about the borough making as making sort of a matching contribution towards the stormwater management Green Street project on Windsor Avenue, that their matching contribution is they're committing $150,000 to build the terrace at the library, and then an additional $15,000 to put some rainwater management features into the terrace that weren't initially in the design. And when I look at that and see, well, that's, we said we would have a matching contribution to do that, I see, well, the point of this grant is to manage stormwater and to prevent flooding. And so I'm wondering if maybe we have this really golden opportunity, because we weren't able to come to agreement with the contractor, to take a step back and see, if we build the terrace as it's designed, do we end up creating more stormwater problems? Should we look at changing that design to be something that is more in keeping with the point of this grant, which is to manage stormwater in a very I think natural way and less impervious surface way. So I think it's my thought that we should recommend that to council, and that we kind of put everything on hold until we have some reassessment of what it is that we really need there. How does it fit into the spirit of this grant? Because we obviously have that combined together. But I had asked Sean, do we know, are we required to build a terrace? Are we required, what does this grant do? And I don't know if that's something that you even know the answer to, in the sense of what are we required to do under this?
yeah, I don't yet.
Yeah.
I know that we have until the end of this year to expend the dollars that have been granted to the borough, and we're at the end of this grant cycle because the timing of this project was anticipated to have been completed last year or 18 months ago.
And that expenditure is the expenditure of money to do the greening, right? Not the expenditure of money to do the terrace.
So I've been at the meeting, I was at the initial meeting of the Pew, when the Pew Foundation met with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the Lower Merion Conservation. And we met here with other members of the Indian Creek kind of like coalition.
Right.
It's the people who live along Indian Creek, starting with Narberth Park, Narberth, the Wynwood Shortridge Park people, all the way going downstream. And their idea was that they're going to spend money on the stream sequentially, like from the highest point down to save the lower waters.
Right.
And rather than give all their money to big projects further downstream, the idea was to spread it out and get the to basically conserve the stream going all the way to the headwaters. So I know Narberth Park's currently working on theirs, but the purpose of this grant for Narberth was to protect the Indian Creek runoff. The water that was to mitigate the impact of the runoff into the Indian Creek in Narberth.
Right.
And so I think we need to find out if we're allowed to spend some of this grant money on the Windsor Greening project,
that's-
because it's clearly doing that. But it was okay with Lower Merion Conservancy when they met with us here, and the Villanova students, was to create a kind of an educational opportunity out of the terrace and the stormwater management off the roof of the library.
Right.
And they were going to do sort of a design charrette with some students and with Brower Hampton and Borough and residents of the Borough to look at how to best do that. But that hasn't happened, and I think and it was going to be an add-on to the terrace.
That's the 15,000.
So I think I would recommend that we uncouple the terrace project from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant.
If
and
we're
just
allowed
say,
to.
well, that's what we need to find out.
Right.
If they
That's-
will allow us to. And I've heard sort of through the grapevine that it's likely that we can spend that money mitigating the impact of the Indian Creek, whether we build the terrace or not.
Right, right. And that's
So-
what I was suggesting, is
Yeah,
that we
and
take
I-
a step back and see, do we really need to build a terrace? If we do need to build some kind of terrace, can we build it in a way that is creating less impervious surface?
Well, let's just separate the need for the terrace and the impact of the terrace from, let's just separate the whole discussion. I agree with you. I think we need to reassess the terrace, regardless of the stormwater management situation.
Well, but I think first, Bob, you have to find out, the folks who gave us this grant may want to know, oh, you're not going to build a terrace, what are you going to do instead? So I think we need to first find out, are they okay if we don't build a terrace? I mean, it's all throughout this, it mentions that we've committed $150,000 to build that. So I think that's a first thing. I don't think we should just assume that they're going to be okay with that, because this is kind of a legalish agreement between...
They're aware of what's been going
I
on
know.
all along the way, so yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think we should just assume, because we don't want to find out, a year from now.
Well,
Now
look,
you've still got to spend the money for
but look,
that.
we have a dilemma. The price for the terrace came in significantly higher than any of us expected. Even higher than the estimates we had in 2012.
Right.
12.
Yeah, I know.
And the reason we went back into design, revisions to the design, and the reason we did the test borings and all that was to create a design that was going to be less expensive.
Right.
And we came up with a design that was more expensive.
Right.
So
Right.
I think, you and I are in agreement that we need to re-examine
Right.
the terrace. But let's
I just feel like you might be jumping the gun and saying, let's disconnect them. I want to do that. I'm just saying, can we first make sure that that's okay? That the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation isn't going to come and say, sorry, you don't get your grant money now because you're not building a terrace. I think we need to find that out. And I don't know how we find that out. I mean, is that them, or is it Lower Merion Conservancy that would, who would tell us that?
Find that out.
Yeah, so I think we need to find that out.
We'll find out.
And if the answer to that is, that's fine as long as you spend that money in some way around Indian Creek, then great. We've got a lot of leeway then to figure out what we do.
Wait, but let's talk about that.
Well, right now?
Well, yeah. If
Okay.
it's on the agenda.
Well,
I mean,
it is, but I don't know what the other possibilities are. I sort of look at this and say, I don't know. I mean, we can start talking about it, but I won't know whether any of the ideas you or I might have are even remotely feasible, because I don't know what the things are. I'd like to talk to somebody who understands the creek and find out what would they like us to do,
What's the price tag for the Windsor Avenue project? And where is it coming from?
I can tell you that right here, I think. $231,000 from Lower Merion Township to implement Phase 2 of the Short Ridge Memorial Park Stream Bank Stabilization Project.
is coming to Narberth?
No, that's to Lower Marion Town. Lower Marion Township is providing
Yeah.
that money for Short Ridge Park.
Actually, that's
no,
not
but I'm reading
what
through
asking.
these. Okay,
I'm
that's
asking-
Short
What I'm
Ridge.
asking Sean is, what's
Yeah.
the price tag for the project
Shouldn't it-
of the Windsor Avenue construction?
Shouldn't that be in here? A separate thing for Windsor Avenue? I'm looking for
We
it.
don't know yet what the price tag is because they have to design it
And they have to bid it.
and then cost it out. No, they'll cost estimate it for us prior to bidding. And that is going to be done if we keep moving forward in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
So Barbara, I'm just suggesting that we ask,
Oh, here it
We
is.
asked-
It's $179,000. That's what they've awarded us, right?
That's what they've awarded.
Right,
so
exactly.
I think we can ask.
Oh, you're
I'm suggesting that we ask National Fish and Wildlife or Pew or whoever's actually the grantor, if they're comfortable with us spending that money on the Windsor Avenue greening, because that's going to have a direct impact on this quality of the stormwater going into the Indian Creek. So
That's
it is
what
the-
I said.
it is
We need
the
to find
intention.
out if it's okay if we don't
With
spend it
that
on the
project,
terrace.
But do we spend it on that?
Well, yeah, it would have
On
to.
the
I would think
Indian
it would,
Creek?
I would think it would have to be
On the
spent
Windsor
on that.
Avenue?
Yeah, I can't imagine
Okay.
that they would agree to anything else.
Okay.
Sorry, I jumped to the wrong page in here where I thought I was finding what we were being awarded.
So, assuming that's okay, which I'm going to assume it's okay because they can't. Otherwise, what are we going to do? Forfeit the money because we're not going to build a $500,000 terrace.
I know. I'm not
Okay.
suggesting we do that.
So I'm like attempting to have a practical conversation with you, not like just being practical about this.
Well, I am too, and I at this point I feel like this is just my way of thinking about it, because we could spend a lot of time talking about something that we maybe don't even get to do if they come back and say,
How soon can we find out?
yeah,
We'll get on it.
okay.
We can call them right now.
I don't think they'd be there. It's 5
Who
o'clock.
gives us the answer, Maureen or the fish and Maureen at
Maureen would be my
Conservancy?
first contact, and she would probably be the one who would make that contact for us or give me the person to talk to.
Yeah, because I'm betting it has to be the Fish and Wildlife people.
And because I've been at a lot of those meetings, it's just an educated guess that that's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I
Because they
think
want us to spend that money improving the creek, and
I expect members of the Lower Marion Conservancy to be here in an hour and a half
Oh, yeah, that's right.
for
they're
the Public Works Committee where we're
yeah.
talking about the Green Street project.
I couldn't stay with
but
that.
there are other reasons to reconsider the terrace beyond the funding implications. Yeah,
Like, I mean,
well, such as it's the price tag,
well, yeah.
and the fact that we're going to do a more global assessment of the facilities,
Right.
and in that context, we can then decide if this design is appropriate and what we need.
And that's what I said at the beginning, so we're totally in agreement. I guess
Absolutely.
I'm looking at this and saying, is there any value in us spending time talking about what we might do with the money until we know for sure? And again, I'll come back to, I'm not educated enough to know what we should do.
My idea was that we
So-
spend it on Windsor Avenue. That's all I wanted to say.
I thought you wanted to talk about different ways we might do it, different types of pavers, different types of, and I'm just like, I don't know.
No.
I want to leave that up to, whoever is
Yeah.
helping us, design what Lower Marion Conservancy is working on. If that, I'm sure they're using some firm to help them with that. So, super. So if you can find out, if we can spend this money in a different way towards stormwater management.
Towards the Windsor Avenue project, we have it in the hopper. It's going to happen, hopefully.
Are you thinking that when I say stormwater management, I mean something other than Windsor Avenue?
Well, I don't want us to go back to the drawing board since we already have a project that's been in the works for 8 years. Let's follow through on it. And let's stay focused. Let's just stay focused on it. It's okay.
Yeah, but if we don't need all of that to finish up the Windsor, we'll need to come up with something else to spend it on, right?
Okay,
So,
we can look at that.
yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I guess we don't know till they bid it. So,
Before you, are you going to move on, or can I say something? I know I shouldn't say anything, but I can't sit here and not say something because you're going back and forth. You're going green space on Windsor Avenue. In the beginning, I was told that the grant was for storm water, okay, that ran from Windsor from Haverford Avenue, by the basketball, under the tennis, then there's a sewer thing alongside the west wing of the community building out to the middle of Windsor. Villanova did work and put in a weather van, whatever, which I still can't find. Now this is going back years in the beginning, that all that had to be done. Now you're saying the green project on Windsor Avenue. Are you talking about on the side of the west part of the community building? Are you talking a long way of Windsor Avenue?
So here's my understanding of what the Windsor Avenue project is, and correct me if I'm wrong. There's ways, Windsor Avenue fills up with water when there's a big storm, right? Because a lot of water comes down all the way down from like the high point of North Narberth Avenue from Iona. It comes racing down Windsor Avenue in the wrong direction,
Yeah, that I know.
and it flows down like in a huge river, passes my house, passes everybody, and then it ends up flooding out the playground. So because the Indian Creek goes under the playground, there's a way of actually like collecting that water and filtering it through like a biofilter, filtering it through shrubbery and greenery and stones,
Like the water
and
trees.
sand, like all, and it means like letting it in through the curb into these things that they're going to build that are going to have trees and shrubs and stuff in them, and then it'll percolate down back into the soil, but much slower, and it's slow enough that it's going to be cleaner by the time it gets to the stream, and it won't be just running all over everything, all over the playground, overflowing the curb and going everywhere. So it lets it in, it lets it sort of go down and in, and creates a big catchment for it. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Wait. You don't, okay, you only have about 2 foot going down Windsor Avenue. Is that all they need to put this stuff in?
It's going to be built in the space between the curb and like somewhere where that, like to where the chain link, like somewhere in the area of the chain link fence on either side. I don't know which side of the chain link fence.
Now, is there any projects around locally that has done this? That I can see?
All over the country, but I don't know.
Not country, I'm saying Lower Merion.
Philadelphia's done a lot of this work.
There are tons of.
Are we going to be the first to do it out here, or Lower Merion has a place, or Riverbend?
What's the park in Ardmore?
Linwood Park.
Linwood Park?
Linwood Park has some nice ones.
I think I will go look.
Yeah, and they're done. They're like all over the country now. It's like a way to. Instead of like the water just going straight into a storm sewer and then going through a big pipe and coming out in the stream, it filters through the ground and slows it down.
Yeah, that I know.
Yeah.
It's just like the trees, the bigger the roots get, the more water it sucks. Excuse the expression, but that's what they taught me how they say it. It takes in.
Right, exactly.
So, okay, so when you're saying Windsor Avenue green, you're talking about the length of Windsor Avenue,
Windsor Avenue stormwater.
stormwater.
What do you call it, Sean?
We call the Windsor Avenue Green Street project, and it has 2 components that are active right now. That's one large component, which is, think of it as left field of the baseball diamond. It's all the way from where that outlet is that gets used for various events, about where the tall netting is, all the way out to the left field foul pole.
Gazebo.
Along Windsor Avenue. That long stretch, it's about 200 feet. And the second component of the project they're working on right now is a small rain garden it's going to take the runoff off of the roof of the Girl Scout room, and instead of it getting piped out to the stream, it'll get piped towards the street and go through a rain garden before it gets there. And that'll be a demonstration project. It'll look nice, and it'll have some interpretive signs. It'll show what's going on in the facility, and that's a much smaller piece compared to the one I described earlier, which is the long piece from about center field to left field in the ball field, right along the edge of where the fence is and those trees are.
And who takes care of this water and the gardens, the greens?
Good question. That's one of my main concerns is maintenance.
Yes.
You don't want to build something you can't take care of.
That's
So
going to look like a
It's
jungle.
been high on my priority to think that through.
All right,
And
okay.
That's a good point.
I think the Fish and Wildlife money was earmarked for the rain garden.
Yeah, a portion of
The
it was,
library rain garden and all that.
portion of the rain garden, the rest to,
Yeah, which actually was independent of the terrace. That rain garden is independent of the terrace because it was going to be.
and you still need it regardless of whether there's a
Right,
terrace there or not.
Yeah, in fact,
There's still a roof.
there's nothing in the structure, the technology of the terrace that had anything to do with the stormwater.
I know, which is why I said.
That's why I wanted them to be cleaved apart.
right,
It's
it doesn't-
the rain garden and the
Yeah.
runoff. Yeah.
It doesn't fit the spirit of the grant. The design of the terrace doesn't fit the spirit of the
But we can
grant.
still build the other part without the terrace. Yeah.
As long as they're willing to still give us the grant money, and that was just the question I had, because
Thank you for answering me.
Can I just ask, what exactly is a rain garden? It's a green space?
It's very simply stated, it's a depression in the ground that's filled with plants that are acclimated to that sort of inundation of water.
Okay,
And so the facility can be huge, or it can be the size of a small little raised tomato garden.
okay.
They're all doing the same thing. Water's entering there, it's slowing down, it's stopping. Some of it will be falling through. When it rains really hard, it overflows.
It's kind of like, it's actually not like something that we're doing in Narberth because it's nice. It's actually a technology, and it's a technology that municipalities are doing everywhere because it results in cleaner water in the rivers and for basic, for our use. So it's like we're not doing it just because it's nice to have a rain garden. We're doing
Sure.
it because it is the technology, it's the state-of-the-art thing that's being done everywhere.
Sure, I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about it in the context of the community use of that space, the playground, the children that run and play in that area. If it would be,
That's right.
if it would
It
be
has to
something,
designed well. Yeah.
if it would be something that, you said a rain garden, I was thinking, is that something that children can play in? Is that something that's dangerous? I don't know.
No, probably not. Do you want to stick around for the Public Works meeting that starts at 6:30? Because that's the first item of our agenda, and the consultants who've developed the concept plans will be here just to discuss what they've come up with so far and those
And I
kinds of
have to run
questions.
home for bedtime and come back.
Okay.
They're going to have pictures?
Yeah.
Sometimes cities have, and it's more of a public works thing, although it's a property thing because the rain garden that's associated with the library is a property issue, not a public works issue. I would
Right.
say that one stays in this committee, but it's the issue of designing some water feature. Sometimes you can design a water feature that is a great play space and that also collects the water. And I've seen them in cities, and I think it's definitely worth burning some thought calories up.
Yeah.
Thinking about
I agree.
to see if there's a way to make those two things work together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what'll help is when we know not only what if it's okay that we spend this money on something other than the terrace, then it'll help to know what is the cost of the already planned Green Street stormwater management. I mean, with those
Yeah.
two things are the same, and if there's excess, we should look at that. And even if there's not excess, that's probably something we should look at some point. Just maybe not right away. So I know, Sean, I asked if the grant materials could be put on the Borough website at some point so folks could read these if they were
The website.
interested. Yeah, so if you guys could do that whenever you have a chance. And then as I said, I had asked the office if they could put together a summary of what's been spent so far. And Sean points out, he thinks this is everything, but, isn't going to promise because different accounts were used in different places. But
98%.
yeah, exactly. You were very close, so sure, but you said, we spent so far about $27,000 on the design, $15,000 on engineering work, soil testing and some other things, electric work, and tree removal. And then I know you pointed out, Sean, that we have perhaps another 3,000 that we need to spend to get electric into the gazebo.
Yeah.
But if we're not going to do the design of the terrace the way it is right now, do we have to do the electric the way you're suggesting? Can they just turn back on whatever they turned off, or did they
No.
cut some? They cut some. Damn.
It was a lot, some of that money was site preparation, and so it actually, it's, you know, yeah, it's like, it was architectural design, it was engineering, it was site preparation. So it's, you know.
Yeah, but for the
Yeah.
terrace, so, yeah. Okay, so,
$62,000.
Yeah. no, the total is not 62. The total is, where am I here? Is 42. 27,
15.
27, 15, and 3.
$41,500.
Yeah. Well, plus 3. 27 plus 15 plus 3, yeah, that guy.
45.
So then we'll make that recommendation to council next Wednesday, that once, and, you know, maybe we'll know before then if you're able to hear back from folks on what our requirements are under the grant. You know,
Okay.
do we how close do we have to adhere to the words that are in there? But we can at least make the recommendation that things be put on hold for now.
Okay.
The next item was the borough-owned properties, except the 201 Sabine Avenue. We wanted to get an update from you, Sean, on the status of developing this inventory of issues and repairs.
Yeah.
You know, because I know you're starting to put that together. And Bob actually had said, you know, if you wanted help with that, and I said, well, don't look to me for help because I haven't been around long enough. I don't know. So, but he might know some things that.
I don't have it compiled in any pretty way yet. But let me give a verbal update on what's going on. We have we did a fire marshal inspection of this building. That took, you know, a couple hours, but that was fine. And the results of that we're working on. That was mostly we have to do some more cleaning up of items that are in hallways, so forth. The two things that are big on our list, I'll start with the biggest one, is roof repairs. The present roof system is at the end of its useful life.
Of this building?
Yes, of this building.
Any other buildings with roof issues? Just,
Yeah.
okay.
The library doesn't have a roof issue, it has an issue in its roof. I'll explain.
Okay, all right. All right, so
But I did spend time with the borough engineer, and we're discussing we want to put together a bid document.
for this building?
For this building.
Okay.
And our strategy is to do and I'll present this to you once I get everything together and back from the engineer, a full tear down and replacement of about 50% of the roof, and then a repair of the roof that is over top the fire hall, with the option to go back and repair and replace that the following year. We have about 8,000 square feet of roof area on the entire 100 Conway Avenue, not including the metal roof that's on our public works shed. So this way of phasing the project breaks it up in half. A total roof replacement, tearing down to the metal, re-insulating to a higher insulative value, putting a new coating, new flashing, total rebuild of the roof, which is what was done 20 odd years ago, for the whole flat roof system that's on all of these, could cost anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000. The borough engineer presented some other options of repairing the existing liner and removing patches of the existing liner, and while those were less cost, I think when we really thought it through,
You're going to be fixing that again before you know it, right?
we thought a partial replacement was probably the way to go, and that's what we'll recommend to council, although we'll have this discussion in a in the context of all the options. We won't just narrow it down to the one that administration thinks is the way to go. But that's kind of where we're leaning. The other issue with that I mentioned with the library is that we don't have a way to manage the condensate that comes from the AC unit, and that created a mold issue last year. I'm going to go ahead and just talk with a HVAC contractor. I don't think we need the borough engineer to come in and tell us we have a condensate problem.
Yeah.
We can just go straight to the HVAC people.
Oliver did a very good job on Sabine Avenue, and I don't know if you've ever talked with them. But
Yeah.
Okay.
And they, Oliver and Carrier have been our two contractors for this building. We still have some pending cooling system work that needs to be completed that we actually have been credited for from expenditures last year. So we'll get that work done this year without any expenditure. And that's some equipment replacement in the mechanical room for circulating chilled water. And hopefully the building will be cooler this summer. This one.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. The voting yesterday was pretty toasty.
So there's a forensic engineer who volunteers to help the borough if you ever want to make use of it. And he's very experienced. His name's Fred Blum. And he helped out actually with the design and specification of the Sabine Avenue property. And he's somebody you can call and talk to. He's lived in the area forever. He likes the borough, and he's helped out before.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
In terms of the condensate on the library. I think you were in the middle of a thought.
that's what I was just wondering, if you're thinking for that.
The other thing, one of my neighbors brought up to me, actually at the library event, he's a facilities manager for Penn, so he deals with capital projects kind of all the time. And he said what they often do on projects that are much, much bigger than ours, when they're building a parking garage or hospital addition or something, they'll bid it out, but then they'll also hire another engineering firm. Sometimes it ends up being someone who submits a bid too, just as to give them like a independent, no bid cost estimate. And he brought this up to me in the context of the terrace, which discussion I'm sure I already missed. Sorry about that, I had a work call. But for that, or for anything on the bigger end, like if this roof turns out to be some much bigger number, he said it might be worth, he's got a few folks in his contact list that he could pass on to us to go to for estimating, or there's the engineering firm that's in the office building across from the movie theater. Maybe you know the...
Yeah, I know who you mean.
They've done...
They do that kind of thing.
They do that kind of work also.
They do big commercial jobs. They did Suburban Station.
Exactly. Right. So
It's huge.
they're a big... they're so often involved in that kind of estimations work, and as a borough firm, maybe they would do it for cheap, just to be a service to the borough. It might be worth reaching out to them in particular if we ever have a need to have somebody do an independent estimate.
It's a good idea. I mean, in the institutional world, that's pretty much the practice, is that you actually get an independent cost estimate before you put a project out to bid. And, like a university or college, that's what they do. That's a kind of just matter of course.
It is, and sometimes you do that on big IT projects too. It really, you wouldn't do it for something small, because there's a fixed cost to doing that.
Yeah.
It's really, you see it mostly in stuff that's, millions of dollars plus, but for some of our projects, if we have sources who do it for very cheap and it's not a significant percent of the overall potential cost of a project, it might be worth looking at.
So that's a few items, but I think there's probably more. Is that the inventory that you're saying you're getting started on?
That's the inventory I have so far.
Okay, that's fine.
So I've been under the impression of now being on the property committee for a while that Joanna Ma at Pinoni, Yentis, well, let's not talk about
Yeah,
Sabine.
we're keeping this
But Joanna
separate.
Ma, the architects who have worked on the library for years and years, including the addition, the newest addition, the back, and the terrace, and the preservation engineers who worked on the pointing and the analysis of the preservation stuff. If we were just to talk with them, and I'm willing to do this and just create a spreadsheet of items that they've already identified and have in their notes that are of concern, such as the need for tie rod replacements at the library. And there may be a few other things that didn't get attention during the pointing. I do think we replaced I do think we repaired the back lintels. I think the library envelope is pretty good at this point. With there's the mechanical systems issue, and there's the structure, but the roof, the gutters, the pointing, it's the windows, all of that stuff's in pretty good shape. But I'd be happy to talk with them and just create just a spreadsheet, not to create a hierarchy but just a spreadsheet of items. It'll just be a few calls, I think. If you need help with it. If not, I'm not looking for work, but I'm happy to do it if it helps you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there is some more information buried in the documents that I've discovered.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Yeah.
The preservation work that was done 2 years ago, yeah. I just found that.
And there have been a lot of eyes on this building in recent years too. We just didn't necessarily gather all the data in one place.
It's true.
That'd be the key, is just, we started this with a blank spreadsheet in the property committee folder. Gather all that data into one place so we can look at what's the estimated, what are the sort of large punch list items, and what's the estimated cost, and how much of that should get done this year, how much can we defer to next year, and how much is like a want to have rather than a need to have.
Okay.
And then we can actually work with you to prioritize them and make sure we've got financing for it.
Okay.
And then there's even just cosmetic issues. We could, if we could just walk around and make a list.
True.
I mean, just a list of things that would be nice to do, and then decide how important they are.
Yeah. Does it make sense, given that you have some history with Anima and the architects for the library and that kind of thing, that you do have those conversations and just get them to spill their guts?
I don't think it would take that long to just get it just a baseline.
Yeah, it's just a list. Yeah.
That's something the office can handle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure if maybe is Bob going to say, well, but what about when he's talking with them?
Okay, that's
fine.
It's fine with me, but I'm happy to do it. Okay. And I think Yentis will probably do the same thing with Sabine Avenue. That's their role.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Do you have a sense of where this falls kind of in your priority of things so when you might have a list like this put together? And I'm not saying, a date, just
Everything happens on a monthly cycle
Yes.
with the committees and council, and I have between, of my own time, 3 or 4 hours, and of staff time, another 4 or 8 hours. So there's maybe 10 or 12 person hours that can be devoted to each committee in a monthly cycle. So that's kind of our time budget at this point.
So it kind of depends on what all we ask you to do.
What other committees are asking asking the office to do. And what.
By we, I meant the collective.
And then just
we at the table.
Just on a side, kind of a corollary, would you ask us if there are tasks that we can do that we're happy to? I know all of us are happy to help. I'm happy to help if there's a task like that that's easy to do. Create a spreadsheet of items. So if it
Yeah, it's one of those things where we have some volunteer time, and I know I'll have some spare time here and there over the next month. If you've got the raw data and just, want to ask us, feel free to ask us, do you have a couple hours to take the raw data and compile it into something, and then let me take a look at it. can help on that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll help everyone understand priorities a lot better, because I in my own mind, I'm developing a list. I'm developing an understanding of what needs to be done sooner rather than later. But until that's communicated to everybody, we won't come to a group understanding of how that all fits together. So I'm on board with that. That makes sense.
Is it fair to say, though, that the roof of this building that's a high priority?
Yeah.
So that, it sounds to me like that, well, that and getting the library, I would think we'd want that fixed before it's heavy air conditioning time.
Yeah.
So it sounds like those are the two things that, if you look at, all right, we have only so many hours to focus on various projects. Those are the two things out of this inventory of issues that
And this
should...
building's cooling system
Right.
as well, so
But-
it's the third.
Yeah, but is that something that takes up much time? Because it sounds like we've already paid for that, so is it just getting them scheduled to come in and do it? I thought you said that we have,
Yeah.
the cooling work is just, so it's not, like, you don't have to do a bid, prepare a bid.
No, you don't have to do a
right,
bid.
So it's not so, it's
Yeah.
not as time intensive. So it sounds like you already have priorities. You've got an inventory, yes, it's short, it's not complete, but you have priorities on it, so then it sounds like the rest of the items are just going to come eventually.
Yeah.
We'll get a better sense of those.
It's something we don't understand. We don't understand some of the little more minor.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about this room looking different the
Right.
last time we got together.
Right.
That's an item.
Yeah.
It's an item somewhere on the list behind the roof.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right, exactly.
And I guess are you waiting on us or on council for anything roof or library HVAC or this HVAC related? Do you need anything from us?
Well, for the roof, yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's going to be public bid. And
Yeah.
So that,
there may be borrowing involved with that too.
we won't know that till you have a bid prepared, right? But the other two things you don't. Well, I would think certainly this building's,
We have maintenance dollars
Yeah.
for the library,
Good
and
one,
I don't
okay.
think it'll get into a public bid dollar amount.
Okay.
It shouldn't.
okay. Okay. Anything else on the non-201 Sabine stuff?
So the office can spend up to $10,000, right? Is it without, like on maintenance? I think that's how it works.
Okay. I always forget the dollar
I
amount.
think that's something good to find out. I think it's,
And where does one find that out, Bob? Oh, is it in the code?
Isn't it?
it's in the Pennsylvania municipalities.
Oh, okay.
Someone pointed it to me once.
Yeah, and I think it's 10. It might have gone up to 12, but do you know, Cheryl?
I don't know if it's all set by that or if individual municipalities can have a different policy.
A different amount, yeah. And I think it is set by the state anyway.
Well, maybe they set a minimum or
I
something.
mean, so it covers like 90% of everything that probably gets done. At the manager sort of can make those decisions.
Well, I'll see if I can find that out. And then it should be somewhere on the SharePoint site, so we never have to ask. So we all can look it up.
Right.
It should be out there. Okay. Should we move to 201 Sabine then?
Sure.
Okay. So we wanted to get a little update from you on how things were going with Yentis and what their assessment of the building is.
Good. I'm really pleased with them as a property manager.
Oh, good.
They're doing a really good job, and they've been punctual to the point of me slowing them down, not being able to keep up with them.
It's good news.
We focused on health and safety assessment in the first 2 quarters of 2016, and the borough's building inspector has inspected the property for health safety issues, and we have a punch list of things that need to be done. The more expensive items are sidewalk repairs around the property, the entire property, within and without the property. We're going to have to figure out how much of that we can bite off and chew. Some of the doors need to be replaced because we're not sure they're fire rated. And we're taking the approach we're really focused on the daycare operations, health safety issues first. In fact, we've been working on those already this week. And it's a great number of punch list items, things like making sure the generator actually works and powers exit signs. Making sure exit pathways are marked correctly to get out of the building. Making sure that doors are hinged the correct way and have the right types of crash bars going in the right direction. So when you're in a dark, smoky space, it's easier to get out. Points of egress. Hazardous materials in mechanical rooms. Those kinds of things are all compiled in this health safety assessment. There's about 15 to 20 things that we're taken care of, and there's about 3 or 4 that are going to be higher ticket items. And the one I didn't mention was looking more carefully at the eaves of the roof and making sure that loose materials are not going to be coming down anytime soon.
And what about the structural issue of the deck in the gym space, the second floor, the space that the elevator now serves? There were already I thought there were bid docs for it.
Yeah, we just got those back on the 15th or 16th of this month from the structural engineer. So we're ready to go forward and find somebody to do that project.
Okay.
And that's an example of something the borough would be the project manager on, whereas when Yentis steps away from that. And I think there's a dollar amount in our property management agreement beyond which they won't do without our consent. It also has been a learning experience for the borough to understand that there's a relationship for us to play in this property management role, in that we don't have to. The idea that it was a turnkey operation, that we could just drop the keys off and someone was going to handle it and it would go away, is not the way it's going to work. Borough is a property owner, and property ownership, commercial property ownership, has a lot of responsibility. And we have to understand what our role as the executive director of the property is. What sorts of long-term capital improvements are we going to prioritize? What instructions do we give the property management team on a weekly or bi-weekly basis? So it's been a lot more time and thought, and a word Mr. Wegbright likes to use, mind share, for the office than I anticipated it would be. But we're working out that relationship. So that's been a learning curve for us as well.
I just want to say at this point that it's particularly concerned that we not spend money on big deferred maintenance things like roofs and new eaves and whatever. I mean, obviously we have to do sidewalks because they're in the right of way, but big items, until we have some sense of a future trajectory of the property and how we'll be using it. And as long as we keep visiting the timeline and the horizon of that, and and keep harvesting all the different options, so that council and the public can look at that and be aware of it. And I just think the sooner we can start to sort of think on that, just let it marinate, the better. And maybe it means even scheduling just some informational sessions where people who have ideas could think of different scenarios
Of how to use that building differently.
We just listen to them. And just not because we're going to act or initiate any of this, but just we start really thinking possibilities for it.
So,
because that could impact what we spend.
Right. So that leading to my question to Sean, which is Yentis asking for something right now that you would say this? Well, you would do this if you were going to own the building for another 30 years in the form that it's in. Are they asking for projects like that, or are they really asking for?
They haven't. They're asking for obvious stuff because they understand the big picture. But you're getting at the relationship that we're learning, the office is learning, is that the property manager wants the building to be the most wonderful Class A office space they can get their hands on, and spend every dollar to make the windows and everything as beautiful and great for the renters as they possibly can. As the property owner, you have to weigh that against
Is it going to pay off for us or not?
Your capital budget,
Okay.
dollars coming forth, is it gonna be the borough's property down the
Or in
road?
what form,
Yeah.
If it's still the borough property, is it still that?
Yeah,
use?
and I think we have to, I picked up on that pretty quickly from all of their requests.
Well, it's good to know they're not asking for that stuff right now.
And
Yeah,
I think it's. I'd like us to maybe meet with them, because I'd
Yeah.
like to push back a little bit on them and say, look, part of the service that you sold to us was that you would help us with this, and and really shape some of these decision points and give options. And so I don't know what your experience you're having, but I hope you're also making sure that they're coming through on what.
it's collaborative. If I misrepresented it as being them
Okay.
driving us into spending dollars, then I regret that.
Okay.
It's been very,
But it's working well for you anyway.
so far, yes, very
Okay,
well.
great. Well, that's
I'm very pleased.
what matters.
That's good. All right, so is there anything that the office needs from us right now about 201 Sabine? Like, you've got all these punch lists. Is there anything there that you think you'd like council's thoughts on about whether it's...
That are like bricks and mortar type issues.
I guess, yeah.
Um,
Because I don't know what else on the, you mentioned the sidewalk, so I'm thinking, well, at some point you're going to come to us and say, it's going to cost this to fix the sidewalks, and we'll have to decide how we...
Maybe we should talk about what dollar amount that should be before you want to know about it.
Who's the "we" in the first part of the sentence?
Council.
Well, look, I think
Like if we get a $25,000 sidewalk bill,
Mhm.
which wouldn't replace all the sidewalks up there because
Right.
that's a big property.
Right.
You might want to know about that.
Right, that's what I meant. So are there things on this list that you're going to want to get council's thoughts on before stuff is done? And it sounds like yes.
The health safety stuff, no.
But the...
Like fire doors
Mhm.
and
Okay.
obvious tripping hazards, no.
Okay. I couldn't
We're gonna
tell
do it.
when you said punch list, if the punch list was just the health and safety stuff, or it also included things like sidewalk repair and...
That is a health safety
Oh,
issue.
okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm getting confused now.
I guess
Yeah, we're trying to draw a circle around these initial issues that we handle right away, and
Right.
the circle we drew was health safety, and we
Mhm.
tried to focus on the daycare
Right.
part of the building
So-
as the higher priority.
Right, so my question was, of that, is there anything that you need council's input on? And it sounds to me like you're kind of saying maybe the sidewalks, but then I'm hearing you say maybe not, so I'm just confused. It just...
Probably not,
Okay.
once we know how much things cost.
Oh, okay.
It starts getting really high.
Yeah, because I think I'm trying to remember from the budget last year, forecasting into this year, I think we thought there was going to be $278,000 in net income if we
Yeah.
didn't have to do
That sounds right.
deferred maintenance catch up and raise our expenses on the building, and we budgeted 200
200 or 210, yeah.
in net income, so we left ourselves some room in the budget
That
for
sounds
exactly
familiar.
these kind of expenses, plus a little more for the property manager to ensure they service. But if you start eating up a big chunk of that, like 40 plus, 50 plus $1,000, then just like keep us in the loop, because then we start to get closer to a projected net income that looks like our budget number.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Did you find the Pannoni engineering report on the energy, the energy report that they did?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So you have it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talked a lot about thermal load and getting at the windows as a solution, and that was big capital.
I mean, at
project.
some point it'll be important for whether it's the borough as the future manager or whoever, it's going to be important.
Okay. Is there anything else you want us to know about 201 Sabine?
No, not the moment now.
Okay. Okay. Is it okay if we move on to the fourth item?
Sure.
Okay. So, oh, I'm sorry. I had one other thing that wasn't on here that I just wanted to ask since we had some emails about it, and that was the tennis courts. And so, is there some action that we have to take on that? Because, Sean, you said you'd heard from Melissa and Jim, and I have to say I don't know who they are, but with the Narberth Athletic Association, that they wanted to go ahead and do it, and they pay for it with their funds. So is there something that we have to do, we as council?
Is that what you want to have done?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, that would be consistent with what we had decided as a property committee last year when we were discussing like whether to basically budget for tennis court repair or find some other way of repurposing the courts. And people came forward and said, actually, we really value the tennis courts so much that we think we can go out and get the funding to resurface the courts.
Oh, okay.
And make sure that they continue to exist in Narberth. And so that's like they're just coming through
Okay.
on what we discussed.
Well,
I didn't understand that.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, so does somebody need to say to them, go ahead, because Bob, you had indicated that, or you'd sent an email around from Ed Ridgway saying that half a dozen people have asked him this week, are they going to be, when are they scheduled to be resurfaced? And like, I don't know how we respond to that. If we're not the ones paying for it, then shouldn't somebody just say check with the Narberth Athletic Association? And
Then you say, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we can communicate with them.
Yeah, we can go ahead.
okay. So will you do that, Sean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy to do it, but I don't even have any contact information for these folks.
No, let me go ahead and
Okay.
do that. And
And we should definitely like find a way to thank them
Yeah.
and recognize them.
I'm
It's-
sort of
'cause it's a
flabbergasted
great-
because
it's a great public-private partnership. It's fantastic.
I know. I mean, I only remember some property committee meetings where it was talked about, are we going to do something or not? I didn't remember ever, well, maybe I wasn't at the one where you said, hey, they've agreed to pay for it.
And in many ways, it's very appropriate because, there's
Yeah.
like a sort of smaller number of people in the borough who sort of are about having tennis courts and that they're really interested in being the stewards of it. It's really great.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. It's different than the playground or the fields or the,
Yeah.
With a lot of diverse users. And
Yeah.
you get all different
No,
ages
no,
using
It's-
it.
There's not a whole lot you can do with the tennis court but play tennis.
can kind of take ownership. So
And I
it's
do think they're
fantastic.
going to build, I think they were going to build a pickleball court on one of the courts, which is also really great, which is like a game that...
We know what it is because Bill said many times. at
Bill talks
meetings
about
what it
pickleball.
was.
But I mean,
No.
that was part of it,
Yeah.
was like to find a way to
Yeah.
get more people involved in using
And
it.
if that's what they're doing, great, and if they're not, that's fine too.
Okay. I don't play, so
I don't either, so I'm like, okay.
What's pickleball?
To me, it's a
Oh,
golf course. I
It's
don't
just
know.
another way
Is
of,
it a wooden stick hitting the
yeah,
ball?
it's some other batting the ball around in some way. I
So you
don't-
can't
You
play
had-
that while you're playing tennis.
You play
Well,
with
it's
a
a different
pickle.
kind of court, apparently, so you'd
There
have
are
it.
actual pickles.
Yeah,
really.
pickles, yeah.
Don't.
It's pickle roll.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It's a game.
That's a game. It's
For
another.
young and old.
Yeah,
I like.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds Dr. Seuss.
It does,
Official.
then I'm like, if they want it, they'll build it. If they don't,
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay. The public use policy for this building. The purpose of putting together this written policy, and this is something that was started before I joined the committee, so I'm just going to kind of repeat what I've been told is, and so, if I get you guys wrong, if I misstate anything, please tell me, is that, when we want to have a written policy that the office can follow when people want to use the spaces in here. This room, the two meeting rooms over there, the big room, we want to have some kind of policy for that would, make it really easy for them to say yes or no. They can go down and say, do you fit into are you asking for it on the days when these things are available for public use? Are you asking, are you meeting all our requirements? And some of those would be having them sign a liability waiver or a hold harmless agreement, something, to make our insurance brokers happy so they're not worried about us. maybe have a fee to cover cleaning if it's the kind of event that we think that's necessary. So, and we're starting with this building, and then when we get this one figured out, we'll move on to the other borough-owned properties. So that's kind of how this came about. Do you have anything to add?
I just say this, it's a fairly common thing for boroughs to have.
That's true.
And as we looked around, we found a lot of examples of, here's the use policy with, hours, what rooms are available, what hours are they available, what's the fee schedule, what's the application process. Here's a little one-page application to give to the borough manager so they could check, does this person have liability waiver, and do we know who this group is, and where do they slot in the prioritization of space use between, these kind of meetings, office first, these kind of meetings second, commissions third, other borough solicited things next, nonprofits and other kind of publicly available groups next, and then like the general public last. Like if you want to throw a birthday party, you can do that as long as the space isn't already being used by one of those other functions. It's come up because we've had no written policy before. So for example, there was a women's club that wanted to use the big room over here, and Bill wasn't sure, like, were they allowed? I think there might have been like a women's Republican group, a women's Democratic group, and he wasn't sure if like political groups were allowed or not, even though they sort of are. If that kind of thing is just like written down, then there's no dispute. Somebody called Sean a month or so ago to say they wanted to have a birthday party in here, and like, it's like, I don't really know how to respond to that because I don't have guidance on what it is. So that kind of kicked it off, and it was like, we meant to do it last year. We got a little sidetracked with other borough property things, and we should just go ahead and get it done. And we've started drafting it based on cribbing from other boroughs' policies. I beat the hell out of it today, actually.
Did you? Okay.
Because I looked at the State College Pennsylvania one was actually really good in terms of the way it was organized.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
So I took what we had already, you maybe had already drafted.
Well, no, Bob drafted it. I made changes based on.
I never modified it after we made all those decisions at the last property committee meeting, because I thought
Matt
said he wanted to do it.
He made.
Matt
Made changes, and then I went into it and fixed. There were some typos. I fixed those, and then I added some comments where I was like based on, because I was at that property committee meeting and I had some questions about, because I thought, wait, I wrote down something and that's not what ended up in there, and I was like, well, did I write it down wrong?
I basically put a giant club.
And you just, and that's fine.
So
I
took all the content that we had and kind of reorganized it into something. So it's actually not that one.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It's not going to be that.
Now that we've seen the State College, maybe we take the content from the one you put together, that we've all worked on, and kind of restructure the whole thing using the State College as the boiler. I like that suggestion.
Already did it, actually.
You did?
That's what I was going to say. I think that's what he did.
Oh, that's what you did.
That's what I said in my email.
That's fantastic, because that actually really was a borough. And they have a borough manager, and they have kind of a chain of command already. And
the application process looked pretty similar to what we wanted.
The application was great.
Yeah.
So as far as the general guidelines of what you want the policy to state, you have a framework in place? Because we can take that framework and sort of iron it out.
Yeah.
You have a sample application. It's really
Okay.
good. How did you find it? Just looking around.
A lot of Googling different boroughs' policies, and that one looked pretty close to what we
Use the
wanted.
Google machine.
Yeah.
It's very skillful.
What we thought the process would be was that the three of us would get something that we all liked, and then it would come to you and Matt and Leslie to look at to say, can we actually implement this? Is there anything in here that you're saying, why are you saying that? That's crazy, or whatever. Or there's a better way to do this or whatever. And then so we would kind of work together then to get something that could go to council to say, hey, here's what we want to.
I also restructured it a little bit because what we were doing was writing it as a policy for this building, and so what I did was change it up so it just is it's a facility policy globally.
Oh, nice.
And then it says here are the facilities that are governed by this policy.
And
right now,
within those.
Right now, it only refers to the specific rooms in this building and sets out policies. But I tried to restructure it in a way that if we subsequently, add in, for example, the community building where there are some specific use restrictions and priorities, there's a spot to drop those in and we don't have to like go reinvent the wheel.
So it's more like,
Or if
it
you wanna
becomes more
do
like a database, so you can amend it with a database, like
Not
a
really.
lit or a list.
It's just easier to update. If you
Yeah,
wanted to
just
add,
update it.
if you want to add the
Easy to
Chet
do.
Tyson Pavilion, you
Yeah.
can do that
Sure.
and slot in,
Yeah.
you know, things in a couple of places.
Like
and
this
then
kind of a
pop
chart.
out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Right.
good.
Yeah. No, I think
That's what I call a
great.
database.
Oh, that is not a database, Bob, sorry.
It's a little group of data.
Yeah, it is, but, well, I'll say that a different way. That's not the way most people think of a database. When they think of a database.
It's got a unique identifier.
It does, that's true. He
Single
does.
table.
It's a single,
It's
that's true.
database-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, David, you're right, yes.
So what do you guys want to do?
Well, does it make sense for Bob and I to look at it and we kind of provide comments again and?
I think so. And then
And just let me know when you're happy with it.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say, can we be happy with it,
Sure.
in a few days and give it to Sean and let him and
Yeah.
Matt and Leslie
Yeah.
look at it and
See
then
if-
maybe at the June caucus meeting, we can have it for council.
Right. And then I know this is for Conway policy, as we get further down, when we're ready to do
Mhm.
the community building,
Mhm.
then I think it's really important to invite in the Girl Scout, the Girl Scouts and the Veterans Farm, the Legion, and have them come and decide with us how we're gonna,
The
like,
Junior
collaborative.
Women's League and
Well,
whoever
I
else
think
uses
it's the
that
girl,
space.
it's
So
the
what
Girl
is like,
It's the Girl Scouts are under the wing. They're there by invitation of the Girl Scouts in a way, but it's the Girl Scout room. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
just get the girl, and it's the Legion, so let's get them to work with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one question. Does that mean that also that the contract and everything that the Legion uses and brought up will be changed too?
just so that it's consistent with.
Or you'll look at it?
Look at it and make sure.
Because John, doing this for years and all the other commanders,
Make sure
John's isn't up to date.
We'll make sure John's here when we talk about it.
Yeah.
Because there are different occupancies in each one of these buildings.
Right.
This one holds more than the east wing and the west wing.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And we're, by the way.
So you're-
Yeah.
But
We're
the
referring
document will
to-
reflect that, yeah.
Yeah, I know, but
But yeah, and if.
I just needed
John's-
to.
When we get, we're not even there yet, we're doing this building first.
Right.
When we get there, we'll want to take a look at all that stuff. So
Yeah.
if John's got whatever policy he's been using with other users, we should probably take a look at that too when the time comes.
It's a good one.
Good.
I thought he's my husband, but it's a good one.
Yeah, so you
It
can
works.
track him down. Right?
It works, yeah, it's right.
Okay. All right. So, anything else about that? I don't think so.
Can we get a copy of, I don't know if John Walco wrote an opinion about the
He's got a
the
memo or something.
solicitors,
It's-
just about the community building.
I don't know
I've
if,
not seen it.
I don't know that he
Okay.
wrote one. There,
If you got one, please send it to me, because I know Bunny has asked me for it.
I don't have one. I know.
have
no, no,
scoured every inbox.
I don't have one. I'm asking.
Okay.
I'm asking on behalf of all, just
So-
for the sake of everyone having
All the
access to
information.
it, the
Yeah.
information, and or even the earlier solicitor.
Well,
I think we
that's
have
on-
an interpretation from a solicitor in
Yeah.
1996 or
it's
92
actually,
or something.
it's on the SharePoint site.
It's on the
right
SharePoint now?
but
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Mhm.
And then maybe we just need to know if John Walco concurs with it,
Mhm.
or if he has any concerns about it.
Okay.
Oh, not to
So
jump.
you could ask him, Barbara.
That's what I was gonna say, should I check that with him and see?
Because
And
it
if
has
he-
to be congruent with whatever we're doing as a use policy has
Right.
to fit with it.
Right.
I did want to ask one before it slips my mind. When you go read it, you're going to see something weird in there, and it's because the field house. I was thinking ahead to like which of these policies do we have to have like little extra language in? And the field house, we're saying no commercial use in any of these
Oh, and
buildings,
they sell stuff, don't they?
except I think that's the one where we would let people like do hot dog concessions or selling goods. Is that right?
Circus tickets,
Yeah.
hot dogs, whatever
could-
else they sell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Do we do that anywhere else or just there? other than like fundraisers and like, let's call it fee for attendance events like
What about-
Oktoberfest.
Do the Girl Scouts do, well, that's the Girl Scouts.
Scouts.
We
It's like
weren't
a
allowed,
fundraiser.
but we are,
That's
we
not-
are now, but it's just for what the girls want to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
fundraiser.
We don't
That's-
use the room for
Right.
outsiders to come in for a
And sell
fundraiser.
stuff.
No, I don't think any commercial stuff happens. And the reason is,
Other than concessions.
otherwise you'd have people using the space to teach classes, to do,
Yeah,
you know, which isn't necessarily what
right,
space is for.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, we had,
Anyway, so just keep an eye out for that.
Okay.
I put it something like other than the field house, which could be used for concessions, you know, no commercial activity.
right, that makes sense.
Just wanted to check that was okay with you guys.
That makes
That's
sense.
good with me.
Okay. So do we want to talk real quick about future meeting dates and times?
Yeah.
So I think it'd be really great if we could stack this with somebody else, so have 2 committee meetings on one night. So
I'd
we're
love
going
to do building and zoning on this night,
Okay.
if that would work with the office. Like, we could start at 6:30.
Well, I think the public works, like we have public works right after this
You guys have
tonight.
already grabbed that spot.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Is this a recurring public
Well,
works meeting every month, right after this one?
But this is also late in the month. When you and I had talked about this, you had said that
Yeah.
you'd like us to avoid the last full week of the month, because
If we can.
if we can. And so we were thinking that maybe we
Third
could, well, or the week that we have our business meeting. So,
The Wednesday after
So
our
the-
business
like the
meeting, which I think
Wednesday
is
after
now
that.
the third.
does that end up being the 3rd?
Mm,
Yeah, it does, in
sometimes
May.
it is.
Yeah, sometimes it will,
But
sometimes it
that's
won't.
a great idea. Let's do the Wednesday after business,
Mm-hmm,
do property, and we could do building and zoning, and 2 would be fine.
yeah.
Because that gives us time to prep anything that comes out of this for
Right.
the caucus meeting.
Mhm.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
maybe sit down.
Yeah, because that's what we thought it
That's
was
great.
like. Okay, so what times would we do? I mean,
I love this time.
I know you do, but I wonder how useful that is for the public. That could, it may be a
Or
little
maybe an hour
early.
later.
Yeah, yeah.
An hour, any amount later, and I know this is like
Yeah.
attention
I
of the
know,
office,
I know.
it has to stay
It's-
later.
It's a,
Is any amount later is better for me just because I work with a whole bunch of people in California for whom it's still the time of day when they call me.
when they're
all the
like,
time.
you should be at
So-
your desk.
So
Yeah,
6
exactly.
o'clock works. Is that work for?
It's fine with me.
So when I lived in California, I woke up at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Rolled in.
Just kidding.
Because you're on the East Coast, right?
Yeah,
No, that's
Which was it?
No, that's
the
the opposite.
opposite.
it's the opposite, yeah.
That's when people wake up earlier.
Any hour later lowers the probability that something happens like tonight, where somebody, one of my bosses, like, we have a conference call right when you have a meeting scheduled.
So,
Right, right.
so Sean, what does the office prefer?
The office prefers that it happen at a predictable date and time of every month.
Thank you.
Thank you, so do I.
Very good.
So I can't schedule my life around meetings that move.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Well,
So-
so we're moving the business meeting now, right? So
Correct.
Yeah,
to the,
Third Monday.
So how about
okay,
the
so third Wednesday.
right, well, that's what, yeah, we're,
Okay, I know, I just had to readjust
Yeah,
to
that's
the
okay.
fact that we moved the business meeting.
yeah, I know, it's, yeah. So do we want to say property committee at 6 and building and zoning at 7?
Sure,
Does that make sense?
that's great.
This is third
Does that work
Wednesday.
for you? Or would the reverse be better for you? Okay,
There is no building and zoning this,
Actually,
this month. so
honestly,
it
the
doesn't-
reverse would be better for me if you can flip them.
can we flip them, Bob?
That's fine with
It's
me.
fine with me, I don't care.
That would be
But
better.
just, you know, I'll make that request of the other building and
Yes.
zoning committee.
See if that
members.
works for them.
I can do it either way. If you
Yeah.
can flip it, that would be
It's good. That's fine with me.
Okay. So our next meeting is going to be on May 18th, and it will either be at 6 or 7 o'clock. Well,
What was that, please?
May 18th? Sorry, Bunny. It's going to take me a long time to
That's
get used
quite
to
all right,
turning back and
Barbara.
forth.
May 18th
I
at
can't wait till we
6
have different furniture.
6 p.m.?
Well, it's either going to be 6 or 7. We're not sure yet, but Bob needs to talk to the other building and zoning committee members, and if they can move to 6 o'clock, then we'll be at 7. The property committee will be at 7.
Okay,
But,
that'll be posted, right?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Once you get it down pat?
Yeah, but we definitely have the week set and the day, so, you know, we know when it's going to be going forward, so that's really good.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
and so then I guess public comment, but we've had some throughout, so,
have a question.
Sure.
So I'm curious about the way these committees function. So on all of the different committees, the people that are actually on the committee are all council members? Yes. And then during the committee meeting, it's essentially a conversation amongst you, but it's open to public comment at the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually there's nobody here.
Or you can chime in.
Yeah.
Or you can chime in.
Yeah, really, like you did.
Yeah.
It seems that having more of a dialogue with the public during these committee meetings would be more effective.
That's why I'd like the room to be laid out differently, because it would be much easier to do.
Right, and it seems like, you know, just thinking from a nonprofit, public administrative type of thing in a way to activate and engage your citizens, these committees might be a way to do that. And maybe if you would allow citizens or residents to participate as a member of the committee, just for food for thought for later or now.
I wonder if the code allows us to do that. We have to look at that.
It's like, but there's no reason. Like sometimes in the past, like I've done building and zoning meetings where we all sit in a circle and everybody who wants to sits in the circle and we just go around and share ideas. I mean,
Very different from
it's just a
Yeah.
You go to
different.
Girl Scout meetings,
And yeah, like a Girl Scout meeting.
sit
I
in
mean,
circles.
and other committees are managed that way, and even building and even like planning commission sometimes works that way, where people are speaking all around the room, having a discussion, contributing.
Right.
But it's certain like it's sort of at the discretion of the chair of the committee.
Right. Right. I mean, it seems like it could be a little bit more difficult to manage if you opened it up to residents to have a role on the committee. But I think it might be worth it, being that you could have more volunteers, people actively engaged doing things to help. So that's one comment. And then my other question, you guys might be suspecting that I'm going to ask, is about the next phase of the policies for the buildings for public use. When you do get to the place where you're talking about the community building, you know, with all due respect to the groups that already deeded or whatever it is, they have a contract that they're supposed to be using that space. I think that conversation should be more open to the public versus just the two groups that are traditionally used to controlling those rooms. And if the public's not invited to participate in that conversation, I'd be questioning why. I know we've talked about in the past, there's in the deed of the building, it has something to say about use of the Girl Scouts, use of the Legion on the other side. If that restricts public use or even public participation in a conversation about that room, I'd like to understand what those documents are saying.
I don't think that's what you meant when you said we should invite the.
Oh, just to the next committee meeting.
Yeah.
Right, well,
Which
is
would be
that
public.
open to the public?
Oh, of
Always,
course.
always,
All these
always.
meetings are.
Without
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
no meetings
doubt.
happen like unless they're just getting information without public.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And who is your name?
Kimberly?
Kimberly? First name, last name?
That's my first name.
Bunny, that's Kimberly Neff, Bunny Nardi. You're not strangers any longer.
Yeah, with all due respect to the Girl Scouts, I know you guys use the room and you do wonderful things.
Since 1927, so let me think, you know, when
With all-
you're hitting me with all this stuff.
No, I completely respect that, and I want you to have full access to the room.
And we'd like to hear your opinion, so it's fine.
It's great.
I have good ears.
You guys do wonderful things. I'm very happy for everything you do. I just also want the public to have a say in that building as well.
Definitely.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We listen well.
So I guess if it needs to be discussed at a later time, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah, we want to get the policy in place for this building first.
Sure.
And then build off of that.
Of course.
So-
Okay.
And how much can be changed with the documents that we hold.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, exactly. I think we just want to understand exactly what they mean.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
And just because, you know, you guys have a priority usage of it, what that means for everybody else and how that affects the policies, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Okay.
I always said we should have a meeting to explain that. maybe we'll have that.
We'd asked for a meeting like that a long time ago.
Maybe we did, well, I did take
It
you
never- it
through,
didn't happen.
I
Well,
took you
it sounds
through.
like that meeting is what's happening, that we'll talk about
It's
it.
fair to say that we're kind of committed to making sure that there's clarity about what the role, what the relationship is.
Right.
Yeah, and since it's gone on since 1927, so you would think that we would all understand it by now.
Yeah.
But, that it would be obvious. But we're attempting to make it that way, and it's just going to take some while.
Bonnie, you said your husband, you have some documents at home.
I have documents, but also this council has documents, and I have gone over the,
It might be helpful.
Right, so it just
Over
takes
them.
some review.
I'm actually thinking, because I think we're structuring I'm just thinking aloud about like drafting things, and we're structuring the policy, I hope, take a look when you guys see it, to be able to expand it to include that building and reflect appropriately in the right places the priority to the Girl Scouts on the one hand and the Legion in the other building.
Yeah.
And just in like big animal pictures, what it is when the building was given by the YMCA to the borough, a requirement was that the Girl Scouts have first priority right of use of that one wing. And then subsequently, because the Legion had met in the other wing for a long time, I think in the 50s.
it was offered to the
Yeah.
Boy Scouts first.
Oh, the Boy Scouts
Yeah.
first, okay.
And then they had just signed their chapter back in the 20s with the Methodist Church, and whoever was the committee person for the Boy Scouts said no thank you and stayed at the Methodist Church. Then they sat down with the borough and they decided the veterans.
Yeah.
And that's how it became the American Legion and given to them.
And that was council in the 50s, kind of, there's some...
Well, it went from council to the Narberth Civic Association. There was two different, it went back and forth. And they also had papers that if somebody wanted to go in other than the Girl Scouts, that they would have to sign, and they charged. I don't know. It's that we do have other groups in there. It's not that it's just sold. We do let other uses of the
It's
room.
kind of like this is the council chambers, and the council has priority use of this room and the commissions and like the borough. But there are times where with special permission, there's no reason why somebody can't have a knitting circle in here.
But-
Like that,
Where I was actually going was that we'll obviously try to reflect in the actual policy document to give the office guidance on specifically that, but it might be nice to have, once we got everything figured out,
But we don't.
summarized, to have that just historical context kind of documented somewhere so that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if somebody new to the borough comes in and says, well, why is it like this? Then there's like actually a written summary of it somewhere.
Exactly.
That might be handy. Yeah, even
If you're a new
maybe-
resident, you don't have any clue what's going on with the Girl Scouts. You're like,
And it feels to me like just as we write, we're going to have to write the policy. I've got to first cut it just a paper application.
Has to be approved. Has to be approved by council also,
Yeah.
before we even,
No, exactly.
so I don't want to go there right now.
No, not for this building, but I'm just saying as we go through the drafting process, we're
Yeah,
going to
you're
wind up.
drafting,
We're going to wind up with a policy document. We're going to wind up with an application. We're going to wind up with a draft like hold harmless agreement for any. You want to throw a birthday party, you got to indemnify the borough in case somebody slips and falls down the stairs.
That's correct.
And then maybe in this part of this whole exercise we can do that kind of like historical summary too, just so that it's all kind of one part of the same.
And just another suggestion for with the policy and the usage, I think one thing that will also be incredibly helpful for residents and people thinking about using the facilities is like a real live time calendar of what's happening. I mean, as close as possible. You can use a Google Calendar. Sean, I'm sure you know other options potentially.
Just with free busy.
Exactly. So something that it shows on like the borough website right now that there are property committee meetings or something. If you have an RSS feed or whatever it is that's doing that. I'm sure there's a lot of different types of technologies that I don't know about. But just a way that residents, just to open up the information, I think will make everybody more comfortable. Thank you.
I have other questions on the other things. Are we still taking comments?
Well,
I got 3 minutes.
Right.
Wait, I got,
Well, then we got Georgette too.
we have 4 minutes.
Yeah.
201 Sabine Avenue. You were saying the windows were replaced around the Montgomery County, the daycare? The windows have not been replaced?
No.
The upper part that we talked years ago about? Have the steps been done?
No.
Oh. All right. So that has not been done. I thought they were done. The other was, when you talk about the library's roof, is it just the middle section of the roof?
Yeah, the area over top where the administration of the library works.
Oh, it has a side door that goes out towards the
Drop ceiling,
east
you
wing?
get water in there.
Yeah. Well, we do too, but ours hasn't, I don't see mold growing yet. And we still have that crack, but we were going to discuss that later. I didn't know if you forgot about having someone look at that again, that it's moving and the windows are moving and the sink's moving. Because then if it collapses, we won't have to worry about having meetings and different things. One less building to worry about. I think that song, One Less Brick. That's all I have. I thank you.
Thank you, Bunny.
So we're ending in a minute and a half, is that right?
Well, because
We'll yield the floor.
I was going to say, it just depends on, I mean, I know you have guests coming tonight.
Sorry.
Right, but are you starting at 6:30, is that what it is? I'm so sorry, okay.
It's scheduled for 6:30.
Okay, so I have a number of questions, so I think I'll submit some of them to ask Narberth, and I'll look for answers there. But related to what Kim's asking about, when is it that we're going to take down the barricade? I still don't understand why it is that we can't just remove it and make it at least feel more like everyone who attends is part of what's going on, as opposed to you talk to each other and we sit here and wait till the end of the meeting when there's no time left to make public comments or ask questions.
There was a lot of public comment tonight, though.
No, I'm asking when the barricade can come down.
I
Yeah.
don't want to overlook the fact that...
No, I know there was a lot, and I waited my turn. I really, and I'd like to understand, I hear you saying now that committee meetings are ones where you can just jump in and ask questions. I didn't know that, so I wait till the
It's
end.
not a policy, that's, I think, what is the discretion of the chair, and I'm happy to have that happen as long as we don't get too far off, and that's part of the reason why we ran long, is that we had some discussion, and that's
Right.
fine.
Okay, so I waited until the end
Yeah, I
because I
know.
thought that's what we needed to do. So now my
I'm
question
sorry.
that I've raised before is, when can this barricade be removed to create more of an atmosphere of we all participate as opposed to we watch?
Right, and we've already asked the office at their convenience to have this removed, to get this furniture out of here and replace it with just some tables out of the big room that we can set maybe in a V or something so that we're looking out. But that's really at their convenience. I'm not going to force them when they've got a lot of other high priority things to do.
If we can find volunteers to remove the barricade, can we do that?
Come on, I'll take it.
A crescent wrench
Everybody
and...
push.
I bet those things are rusty. I look at that and go, I think you need a saw.
You
Well, a
should,
couple of them look like they're broke.
you should see progress in here in the next couple weeks.
Fantastic.
We're trying to find homes for
We want to
the
find
orphan
homes.
I
furniture.
just don't want to throw
Right.
it out.
No.
Make sure
Did
someone.
you Craigslist the furniture, or what are you doing with that?
Well, can I
Don't know
just
yet.
ask, this notion of sitting in a circle and that's at the discretion of whomever, I think it's a great idea, and so at least with the barricade gone, even if the furniture is still sitting here, it would feel more like it's circular in intent.
I agree with you, and you see how many notes I take. It's really hard for me to do that on my lap, so I'm probably going to want some way to have something.
That's fine.
Does that let the table separate? Why can't you just take both tables and go this way?
You can detach it. I curled under there to look. It has to.
Why don't you just go this way
you
with
can't
that
just-
table and you
but-
all face us?
Well, you could for a committee meeting, but then for council, there's 7 people, so it wouldn't work. Wouldn't be big enough.
Bunny, when did this table go in? Do you remember?
When they redid that room and downstairs,
What year?
Yeah.
it's outside on the thing, I'll run down and look for
There's a
you.
Polaroid we found downstairs of the old table in here.
Really?
I think I have it in the Girl Scout
What do you
room.
mean? What do you mean?
Ugly?
Ugly?
Yeah.
Oh,
And we think this is kind of
This is whoever picked this did a nice job, and if you're gonna get rid of it, we can take it in the Girl Scout room.
Yeah,
It's a nice job, but we need is like an oval table.
yeah.
Well, and really what we're looking for is actually stuff that can be moved.
So that
Yeah.
people are seeing.
Yeah.
The thing is,
I spoke up.
we're talking about,
No, that's fine.
council members have to face each
Well, that's
other.
why- that's why I think
Those
it's great.
boards where you're this way, facing out, doesn't work. You can't see each other, you can't talk.
I don't know, I've been in meetings where I've sat at a V table, it's been fine,
A
but,
V table?
yeah, it's been
A
fine,
V
but,
table.
yeah, kind of a V, so, you know, you'd
Still
need
see everybody?
yeah, you'd need like a smaller table, the
Like,
point of the V
one-man
for
commissioners,
Aaron.
I think they can't even like.
Oh, no, that, I don't like that, they're all in the line,
Dysfunctional. They're
yeah,
just like talking
Yeah.
onto the.
yeah, yeah, that's, yeah,
they're
that's,
talking
yeah,
to TV.
yeah, exactly, yeah, they are talking to the TV, yeah. So about that.
I'm talking to Patty's camera.
Georgette, do you have anything else? 'Cause it
No,
doesn't-
I'll submit the other
For
questions.
like
Okay.
3 people
I'm
watching.
staying for the other day.
I can't,
Thank you.
I'm a grad student.
Oh, you're lucky, I'm going home and cooking an anniversary dinner.
Happy anniversary.
Maybe I'll talk to him and take me to the tavern.
I think that's what you should do, I really do. When you said you were
I say
cooking,
let's
I'm
vote.
thinking, I don't know. I
Tell
think-
John that we voted and he said.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Okay, I'll tell him.
We can zoom in on his face.